Eiichiro Oda has fooled us all with the recently revealed mural in Elbaf, and that's why today, in this video, I'm gonna talk to you about the hidden secret that no one has noticed in the Void Century mural. If you enjoy this kind of video, hit the like button and subscribe to help me reach 3,000 subscribers and achieve my dream. Now, let's get started with the video. The Void Century mural in One Piece, revealed in chapter 1138, has completely shaken the fan community. Since its appearance, everyone has been coming up with theories and interpretations about what it represents, but there is one key detail. Oda has fooled us all, or rather he has left everything so ambiguous that it seems like we understand it, but in reality, we don't. To put it in context, the mural shows several figures facing what seems to be a demon holding a sun in his hand. Most fans have reached a similar conclusion. It depicts the war between Joy Boy and his allies against the world government. In other words, the great battle that took place 800 years ago during the Void Century, and up to this point, it all seems fine, like a classic good versus evil story. However, things are not that simple. Oda has been a master at leaving us clues over the years without providing clear answers, and with this mural, he may have done the same. Are we really seeing the story as it is, or just the version we've been made to believe? The problem with this mural is that it's extremely open to interpretation. The drawings are unclear, the accompanying texts don't say anything concrete, and the official history has never been fully revealed. This means that even though it seems obvious that we're witnessing the confrontation between the good, Joy Boy and his people, and the evil, Imu and the world government, there could be a different reading. In fact, there's something even more interesting. Over the years, Oda has introduced phrases and hints in the story telling us that the truth depends on the point of view. A clear example is Rayleigh in the Sabaody archipelago when he tells Robin that it's better for her to discover the history of the Void Century on her own because maybe she'll understand it differently. This makes it clear that the story is not as simple as we imagine. So can we really trust our first impression of the mural, or are we falling into the trap Oda has set for us over 20 years? Everything points to the fact that what we think we know might not be the absolute truth, and that the mural, instead of providing answers, has opened a door to more doubts and reinterpretations. Alright, speaking about the second point, Oda plays with ambiguity in a brutal way. This man hasn't given us a break in years, and with the Void Century, he's really enjoying himself. Literally, he hasn't confirmed who's good and who's bad, leaving us all like fools trying to figure out what's really going on. From the start, the narrative has always pointed to Joy Boy as the hero and the world government as the villains. But here's the thing, Oda has dropped hints suggesting that the story might not be so black and white. All of this is reflected in the dialogues he's been dropping throughout the manga. For example, we have that iconic moment in Sabaody with Rayleigh. When Robin asks him about the truth of the Void Century, Rayleigh tells her it's better for them to discover it for themselves because maybe they'll understand it differently. What is he trying to tell us with this? Basically, that the story we've been told could be different depending on who tells it. This is when you stop and think, what if everything we've believed until now is wrong? It's not the only time Oda throws us a bomb like this. Later on, Vegapunk also gets into the game during the Egghead arc. He mentions that he can't say who the good guys or the bad guys were in the story between Joy Boy and the 20 Kingdoms. I mean, the smartest scientist in the One Piece world won't even take a stance on it, making it clear that not everything is as simple as we thought. And to top it all off, in chapter 1138, just when we're shown the mural, Ripley says, maybe that drawing only represents the dream of a child. Can you believe that? Again, the same trick, leaving us wondering what's real and what's just an interpretation. Oda is playing a game of shadows. He's blindfolded us and thrown us into a maze of theories and assumptions. He's managed to make every fan see what they want to see in the story, without giving us an absolute truth. It's as if he's saying, guys, you thought you had it figured out, but in reality, you know nothing. So yeah, we're in his hands, trapped in this tangle of interpretations and symbols, trying to piece together a puzzle that might not even have a single solution. This is One Piece in its purest form, and Oda, as always, is several steps ahead of us all. Now let's dive into the third point, the reinterpretation of the mural. And this is where things get really interesting, because if we trust what we've seen so far, it seems like the mural is a visual account of the Great War of the Void Century, with Joy Boy and his allies facing Imu and the world government. Up until now, everything seems fine. It's the standard interpretation that almost everyone has come to. But here's the key question, what if we're seeing it wrong? What if Imu isn't the villain in this story, but someone who was protecting protecting something. If we look closely, the first thing that stands out in the mural is that demonic figure holding a sun, which theoretically represents Imu, or the ancient authority of the world government. Around it, several races seem to be fighting against it: the Lunarians, the Fishmen, the Mink, and other historical factions. This gives us the feeling that this entity was the great enemy. But what if we change our perspective? Instead of seeing Imu as the villain, let's think of him as a guardian of an ancient source of energy, something so powerful and dangerous that its irresponsible use could have caused a worldwide catastrophe. Now imagine that Joy Boy and his allies wanted that energy to unify the world and improve everyone's life. But Imu, with the trauma of a past disaster, decided that no one could ever touch that source of power again. This is when the mural stops being just a good versus evil scene and turns into a conflict of ideologies. Imu didn't want to dominate the world for the sake of it. He was trying to prevent history from repeating itself, while Joy Boy and his people only wanted access to something that in their opinion would bring peace and prosperity. If this theory is true, the ancient kingdom could have been an advanced civilization that abused this power, leading to a collapse similar to Atlantis in our world. Imu, or whoever occupied that role back then, saw what happened and swore that it would never happen again, establishing the world government to prevent humanity from playing with fire. And Joy Boy? He may not have been a villain, but maybe he wasn't the hero we've been sold either. Perhaps his intentions were noble, but his desire to reclaim that ancient power would have once again put the world at risk. From this perspective, the mural isn't a story of the war between good and evil, but a reflection of a conflict between two sides with different but legitimate objectives. Oda has managed to make a simple mural make us rethink the entire story. He's left us with the feeling that we know what happened, when in reality, we only have one version of the events. And the worst or the best part of it all is that until he gives us concrete answers, any interpretation could be the right one. Now we dive into the fourth point, where things get even crazier. What if the world government isn't entirely evil? For as long as we've known, One Piece has presented the world government as the ultimate oppressive force, the definitive villains who have ruled the world for 800 years, manipulating history and eliminating anyone who tries to uncover the truth. And yes, they've done terrible things: the genocide of Ohara, the enslavement of entire peoples, the use of the Tenryubido as an abusive and deranged elite. All of this paints them as the undisputed bad guys. But what if things aren't that simple? Let's go with a key example: Rox D. Zabek. This character was completely erased from history, even more than Joy Boy himself. Why? Because he was a threat to the entire world. He wasn't just a powerful pirate, he was someone who sought total chaos, someone who, if not stopped, could have plunged the world into an era of total destruction. Now think about this: if the world government truly were the supreme and absolute villain, why erase Rox but allow Goldie Roger's story to continue? Why go to great lengths to hide some things but not others? The only explanation is that from their perspective, Rox represented such a great evil that even they, with all their corruption, couldn't afford to ignore it. This brings us to another idea. The world government, instead of being the bad guys, could simply be a necessary evil. Yes, they've committed atrocities, but maybe they've done so to avoid something worse. Think about it this way: what if the Void Century wasn't a war between oppressors and liberators, but between two equally destructive forces? What if Joy Boy, with all his greatness, was also a danger because his struggle could have brought about a new age of chaos? It's the same thing that happened with Akainu at Ohara. From our perspective, what he did was a horrible, unjustifiable massacre. But if you put yourself in his shoes, his logic was clear. If I let someone escape, the knowledge they carry could end up destroying the world. It's not that he enjoyed killing innocents, although, well, Akainu is a psychopath. But his extreme mentality led him to make a radical decision in the name of the greater good. So what if the world government sees the world in the same way? What if their oppression isn't simple evil, but an extreme measure to prevent greater destruction? This is where One Piece's story becomes much more interesting, because it stops being a simple heroes versus villains story and turns into a conflict of ideals. From the world government's perspective, their control over the world is the only way to prevent chaos from taking over everything. Yes, they enslave, destroy, and manipulate, but for them, that sacrifice is necessary to maintain stability. And the craziest thing is that, from their point of view, they are the good guys. Oda has made us believe for years that the world government is the absolute enemy, but with everything we've seen lately, what if they're just a necessary evil doing what they think is right to save the world? And here we reach the 5th point where everything explodes. What if in this story there are no good guys or bad guys? Look, for more than 25 years, One Piece has made us think that the central conflict is clear. The world government is the ultimate villain, and Joy Boy was the great liberator. But after everything we've seen with the mural, with Rayleigh's, Vegapunk's, and Ripley's ambiguous statements, and the way Oda is leaving everything up in the air, there's a possibility that many don't want to consider. What if all sides believe they are doing what's right? Think about it. From the pirates' perspective, the world government is an oppressive dictatorship that destroys entire civilizations to maintain its power. But from the world government's perspective, their absolute control is the only thing preventing the world from falling into chaos. It's the same logic Akainu uses. When he destroyed the Ohara ship, he didn't do it out of gratuitous cruelty. He did it because, in his mind, letting the scholars escape could mean the resurgence of ancient weapons and the end of the world. To him, killing those 10,000 people was a necessary sacrifice to avoid a global war. Is it horrible? Yes, but did it make sense from his perspective? Also now, let's apply that idea to the Void Century. Joy Boy and his people wanted an era of freedom and progress, without the world government's control. Imu and the 20 Kingdoms saw this as a threat and decided to impose an absolute order to prevent the world from collapsing. In this scenario, neither side is 100% good or 100% bad. They're simply forces with different ideals. Here, Oda is making a master move. From the beginning of One Piece, he's taught us to question the perception of good and bad. We grew up thinking pirates were villains, but then Luffy became the protagonist. We saw the Marines as justice, but then we have characters like Akainu who are willing to do anything in the name of that justice. We discovered that not all pirates are good, with people like Blackbeard, who is the purest representation of chaos. And now, with the world government and the ancient kingdom, maybe what we thought we knew about history is just another version of the facts. Oda has taught us not to trust appearances, and with this story, he's taking it to the extreme. Maybe when One Piece comes to an end, the big revelation won't just be what happened in the Void Century, but that history has always been a matter of perspective. Because at the end of the day, no one believes they're the villain of their own story. And that's it for this video, explaining my theory and interpretation of Oda's hidden message, where he's trying to trick us all with the story of the Void Century to create the biggest plot twist in history. But what do you think? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments, because I'm really interested in reading your opinions on this. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to help me reach 3,000 subscribers and achieve my dream. Sending you a big hug, and I'll see you in the next video.